Millionaire mocked his ugly secretary, but at dinner she stunned everyone like a goddess. Lena had worked as a maid for years in a luxurious mansion, every day. She cleaned crystal chandeliers, polished marble floors, and dusted gowns she could never dream of wearing. But despite her dedication, she was invisible, just a shadow in the background of the rich and powerful. Her employer, Mr. Gray, a cold millionaire with piercing blue eyes, barely acknowledged her existence. To him, she was just another servant. The wealthy guest who came to his home sneered at her. Worn clothes and tired face, Lena endured it all silently, burying her pain under forced smiles. But deep down, Lena carried a secret. She was not just a maid. She had studied design at night, sketching dresses and gowns by candlelight. Her dream was to one day create beauty, not just clean it. Yet poverty had chained her, forcing her to serve others luxury instead of living her own. One evening, Mr. Gray received an invitation to the city's most prestigious gala. He scoffed, tossing the glittering envelope aside. "These events are pointless," he muttered. But his business partners insisted, so reluctantly, he agreed to attend. What he didn't know was that fate was about to play its hand. The night of the gala, Lena worked late, polishing silverware. Suddenly, the butler rushed in. Mr. Gray's date had canceled at the last moment. Desperate not to appear alone, Mr. Gray glanced around and saw only Lena. "You," he said sharply, "come with me tonight. Don't embarrass me." Lena froze. Her uniform was stained, her hair messy from hours of scrubbing. "Sir, I can't," she stammered, but his glare silenced her. "Change into something. You'll pass as long as you stay quiet." Humiliation burned in her chest, yet a spark of defiance flickered. Maybe, just maybe, this was her chance. With trembling hands, Lena retrieved a gown she had secretly sewn for herself, a breathtaking piece of silk and lace. Stitched in the quiet hours when the world slept, she slipped it on, styled her hair, and for the first time, saw not a maid in the mirror, but a woman with fire in her eyes. When she descended the staircase, Mr. Gray's jaw nearly dropped. For a moment, words failed him. Gone was the invisible maid. Before him stood someone radiant, commanding attention without a single jewel. He masked his surprise quickly, barking, "Let's go," but his stolen glances betrayed him. At the gala, whispers spread like wildfire. "Isn't that Gray's maid?" someone hissed. "She doesn't belong here." Laughter rippled through the crowd, sharp as knives. Lena's cheeks burned, but she lifted her chin. If they wanted a show, she would give them one. The music began, and everyone's shock, Lena stepped onto the dance floor, graceful, poised. Every move whispered elegance. The mocking stopped, eyes widened, and in that moment, the maid who had been invisible became unforgettable. Even Mr. Gray, the man who once ignored her, couldn't look away. As Lena twirled across the floor, silence hung heavy, then broke into astonished murmurs. The orchestra seemed to play just for her, every note matching her rhythm. Mr. Gray, stunned, felt an unfamiliar pang in his chest. He had brought her to avoid embarrassment. Yet she was the only reason people were now staring in awe, not ridicule. A wealthy heiress approached him with narrowed eyes. "Where did you find her?" she asked sharply, jealousy dripping from every word. Mr. Gray smirked faintly, though inside, confusion reigned. He had underestimated her completely. For years she'd been in his home, unseen, and now she shone brighter than anyone in the room. Lena's confidence grew with every passing second. This was her world now, not theirs. She caught snippets of whispers. "She designs her own gowns. Did you see that embroidery?" Her dream, long buried, was suddenly alive. What she had hidden in sketchbooks was now displayed before the very people who once mocked her. But not everyone was pleased. A rival businessman, jealous of Gray, sneered loudly. "A maid in silk is still a maid." The cruel laughter stung, but before Lena could falter, Mr. Gray stepped forward. His voice, sharp as steel, cut through the crowd that made outshine every jewel in this hall. The room fell silent. Lena's heart pounded. For the first time, Mr. Gray had defended her. His words laced not with duty, but something deeper. She glanced at him, and in his eyes, she saw pride. Real pride. A warmth spread in her chest, something she had never thought she'd feel from him. As the night unfolded, more and more guests approached Lena, asking about her dress, her designs, her story. She spoke humbly, but her passion poured out with every word. A fashion magnet, impressed beyond measure, whispered, "You have talent worth millions. Let's talk tomorrow." Her world was changing before her eyes. Mr. Gray watched it all, a storm of emotion swirling inside him. He had built empires, crushed competitors, and yet, this woman, whom he had dismissed as nothing, was redefining him without even trying. For the first time, he felt breathless, not from power, but from admiration. But jealousy is a dangerous thing. One of Gray's rivals approached Lena with false kindness. "Careful," he whispered. "Men like him will use you until you're broken." His words rattled her for a moment, planting seeds of doubt. Could she trust Mr. Gray, the very man who once treated her as invisible? As midnight struck, Lena excused herself and stepped onto the balcony. The city glittered beneath her, but her heart raced with uncertainty. She had dreamed of this moment's acceptance, recognition, freedom. Yet with it came fear. Could she truly leave behind the life of servitude and step into the light? Mr. Gray found her there, standing against the night sky, hair catching the moonlight. For once, he didn't speak as a millionaire or a master. His voice was soft. "You're not who I thought you were, Lena. You're so much more." In that instant, she realized everything was about to change. Forever. Lena turned to face him, searching his eyes for mockery, but found none. Instead, she saw a man stripped of arrogance, almost vulnerable. "All these years," she whispered, I was invisible to you. Her voice trembled, but her gaze was steady. Why see me now? Mr. Gray hesitated, his usual sharpness faltering, because tonight, I realized I was blind. The honesty in his tone startled her, for a man known for ruthless business tactics. This was unlike him. But Lena's heart warned her words were easy. She needed actions, proof that he truly saw her worth. Back inside, the gala buzzed with talk about the mystery woman. Invitations poured in, fashion shows, charity events, interviews. Everyone wanted a piece of her. Lena's fingers shook as she held the cards, glittering with opportunities she had once thought impossible. For the first time, doors were opening for her. But opportunity came with enemies. The rival businessman who mocked her earlier now schemed in the shadows to him. Lena was a threat both to Gray's reputation and his control of the elite circle. If Lena rose to high, it meant Gray's influence grew stronger. He wouldn't allow that. The next morning, Lena returned to the mansion, her gown carefully hung away. Her apron tied once more, but nothing felt the same. Servants whispered about her transformation. Some with admiration, others with envy. Even the butler, who once ordered her about coldly, now glanced at her with a flicker of respect. Mr. Gray summoned her to his study. On the desk lay a portfolio of her sketches, every page she thought hidden in her small attic room. You made these? He asked, though his voice already carried awe. She froze. How had he found them? Yes, she admitted, bracing for ridicule. But ridicule never came. Instead, Gray leaned back in his chair, studying her drawings with a seriousness she had never seen. These aren't just designs, Lena. They're art. The praise sent shivers through her. No one had ever acknowledged her dream not like this. She felt both exposed and alive. Yet, just as hope bloomed, a scandal erupted. A tabloid headline screamed, Gray seen with mystery mistress, servant girl, or secret lover. Photographs from the gala plastered every newspaper. The elite whispered cruelly, calling her an opportunist, accusing her of seducing her employer to climb the social ladder. Lena's heart sank. She had fought her way into the light, only to be dragged back into the mud. I knew it, she muttered bitterly. They'll never see me as more than a maid. Tears stung her eyes. But what hurt more was the thought, would Mr. Gray defend her, or let her fall? That evening, as the scandal spread like wildfire, Mr. Gray walked into the servants' quarters where Lena sat, broken. The staff watched in stunned silence as he knelt kneeling before the maid. They had all dismissed. His words echoed through the room. Lena, let the world talk. I'll stand with you. Gasps rippled through the staff. Mr. Gray kneeling. For Lena, she looked at him, torn between disbelief and the sting of betrayal still fresh in her chest. Why now? She asked, her voice hoarse. Why defend me when the world already painted me as your mistake? He lifted his gaze, steady and unyielding. Because you're not my mistake. Lena, you're my awakening. The room fell silent. The servants exchanged wide-eyed glances, unable to comprehend what was happening. For Lena, his words felt like a lifeline and a burden all at once. But whispers spread faster than truth. The next day, invitations vanished. The fashion magnate who praised her canceled their meeting. Doors slammed shut. No one wanted to risk scandal. Lena's dream crumbled before her eyes, and the cruel laughter of her rivals echoed louder than ever. Yet, amid the chaos, one letter arrived, handwritten, sealed with gold. It was from the city's most prestigious fashion house. We don't care about whispers, it read. We care about vision. Bring your designs. Lena's hands trembled. This was her chance, but taking it meant stepping fully out of her old life. When she told Mr. Gray, his expression wavered, pride gleamed in his eyes, but fear lurked too. If you step into that world, Lena, he warned, there's no turning back. They'll adore you, but they'll also tear you apart. She smiled faintly. They already have, and I'm still standing. The rival businessman struck again, spreading lies that Lena was stealing Gray's fortune. Reporters swarmed her, cameras flashing, questions stabbing. Are you his mistress? Did you trap him? Each word was poison, but Lena, shoulders squared, refused to cower. I am a designer, she declared, not a scandal. Her defiance sparked something unexpected support. Young women across the city, maids and secretaries who felt invisible, began writing letters cheering for her courage. You speak for us. One note said, you make us believe we matter. Their words stitched strength back into Lena's breaking heart. The night of her debut fashion showcase arrived. Lena stood backstage, wearing her own creation. Breath shallow with fear. Would anyone come? The curtain lifted and the hall was full. Her rivals glared, her enemies whispered. But the audience gasped as her gowns floated down the runway like living dreams. And in the front row, Mr. Gray sat not as her master, not as her shield, but as her supporter. His applause thundered louder than any insult. For once, Lena didn't need his protection. She had earned her place with her own hands, her own vision, her own strength. When the final model bowed, the audience rose to their feet, a standing ovation. Tears blurred Lena's vision. The girl who once served scraps was now celebrated as an artist. She glanced at Mr. Gray, who mouthed, you did this, and in her heart, she knew this was only the beginning. But victory came at a price. The rival businessman, humiliated by her triumph, launched one last attack. He forged documents claiming Lena stole sketches from his designers. Overnight, headlines screamed fraud. The same people who had clapped for her now questioned if she was a thief. For a moment, Lena's world shook again. The weight of betrayal, lies, and mockery pressed on her shoulders. But this time, she wasn't the same girl who hid in the shadows. She held her ground, demanding a public hearing to clear her name. If they want truth, she said, let's show them. The courtroom filled with elites, journalists, and skeptics, the rival smirked, waving his forged evidence like a weapon. But Lena's defense wasn't lawyers or wealth, it was her heart. She unveiled sketches she had drawn years ago, water-stained, torn, yet undeniably hers, proof of a dream nurtured long before Gray ever saw her. Gasps filled the hall. The rival's lies unraveled as experts confirmed the age of her work. His empire, built on deceit, cracked before their eyes. The judge declared Lena innocent, while her enemy's reputation burned to ashes for the first time. Lena wasn't just surviving, she was conquering. After the verdict, reporters swarmed her, not with accusations, but with admiration. "How did you endure?" one asked. Lena smiled softly. "Because I knew who I was. They couldn't take that from me." The word spread, becoming a quote that inspired countless people who once felt invisible. Mr. Gray approached her outside the courthouse, pride radiating from him. "I thought I'd be the one protecting you," he admitted, "but it's you who taught me strength." Lena glanced at him, her eyes no longer filled with doubt but with certainty. "I didn't need saving, I just needed a chance." Her fashion line launched weeks later, named not after luxury or wealth, but after hope. Invisible no more. The design sold out instantly. Each gown told a story of resilience, transformation, and dignity. Women who once felt unseen wore her creations like armor, stepping into the light. And though the world now called her a goddess, Lena remained humble. She still returned to the mansion, sometimes not as a maid but as a guest of honor. The servants who once dismissed her now looked at her with admiration, proof that no one stays small forever. As for Mr. Gray, he remained by her side, not as a master but as a partner supporting her dreams. Learning from her courage, their bond was no longer one of power and servitude but of respect. And in that respect, something deeper began to bloom. On the night of her greatest show, as the crowd once again rose to its feet, Lena closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I was never ugly, they just refused to see." The applause roared, and for the first time in her life, Lena knew she had finally become the woman she was always meant to be. Though she had triumphed, Lena never forgot the nights she cried alone, mocked as ugly and unwanted. She carried those scars like hidden jewels, reminders of how far she had risen, not despite the pain, but because of it. Her story spread far beyond fashion. Newspapers called her the goddess who rose from ashes. Young girls in villages whispered her name with hope, believing that beauty was not in faces, but in resilience. Even men who once dismissed her now used her as a measure of true elegance. One evening, she stood before a mirror, not to question herself, but to honor the woman reflected back. The face she once hated now radiated confidence. She whispered, "I never changed for them. I changed for me." It was a declaration of freedom she wished every forgotten woman could feel. Mr. Gray entered quietly, watching her for the first time. He didn't see a secretary, a servant, or even a goddess. He saw Lena, the woman who transformed pain into power. "You're extraordinary," he said softly. She turned, smiling. "No, I'm simply seen." But their story didn't end in quiet luxury. Together, they launched a foundation for women once overlooked: maids, factory workers, single mothers. The mission was simple: give them education, dignity, and a stage to shine. Lena insisted, "If the world ignored me, I'll make sure it never ignores them." Critics who once laughed at her now quoted her speeches. Students studied her designs as symbols of cultural change, and slowly, society shifted, no longer measuring worth by appearance alone, but by courage, creativity, and truth. Her old rival, stripped of his empire, vanished into obscurity, yet Lena never spoke his name again. She believed revenge was not in destruction, but in living a life so radiant it blinded those who once mocked her. Years later, at an award ceremony honoring her global impact, Lena stood at the podium. She scanned the crowd of thousands, then said, "I was once called invisible. Today, I stand here not for myself, but for every woman who ever felt the same. You are not invisible. You are waiting to be seen." The hall erupted in thunderous applause, echoing her truth. Tears streamed down strangers' faces. For her story was no longer hers alone, it belonged to everyone who had ever been underestimated. And so, the girl once mocked as ugly became more than a goddess. She became a symbol, a reminder that beauty isn't in perfection, but in perseverance. And though the world first saw her at a dinner table as a transformed woman, her true transformation was always with